Hey, Scarefest fans, this is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. I had the privilege of going to the movies the other day with a one Christy Turner, who's always been a dear friend of mine, and we saw a movie called Abigail. Christy Turner being the only person who, when I made a post about going to the movies, took me up on it. She's a glutton for punishment. Abigail is pretty much what you see in the trailer. That's a kind of unfortunate because really all it's about is this. It's a group of thieves and criminals, and they kidnap a little ballerina. Happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then what they find out is that the ballerina belongs to a powerful underworld person whom we don't see. They take her to an isolated mansion. A guy played by Giancarlo Esposito, who had the privilege of interviewing a couple years ago, who's just as nice in person as he is on screen. And said, well, you're all going to get $50 million. You just have to stay here for 24 hours till the dad pays off. And of course, none of that works out because this is a horror film. Turns out the ballerina's a vampire and starts picking them off one at a time. You ever just watch something and you want to love it? You want to love it. And I wanted to love this so much. And honestly, I loved scenes in it. So ask Christy about this. She says I'm being a little too harsh, but not far off, actually. She told me, she goes, I'm not too far off about all. It's brought to you by the guys that did, they're called Radio Silence or whatever group. It's two directors. They directed the Scream reboot and the one after that. But the movie that they did that I really love was Ready or Not. And I've reviewed it on here. And if you've never heard of it, go back and listen to my review on Bonehead Weekly of Ready or Not, Scarefest review. Perfect, almost perfect film starring Samara Weaving. This movie has great scenes, but a lot of the stuff that we see, we've seen before. What really works in this movie is everything about Abigail. When it's not Abigail, it doesn't work as well. And Abigail's played by this actress who just blew me away, Alicia Weir. She is fantastic as the little vampire in this movie. She is fantastic. This movie is bloody. This movie is gross. This movie has vampires. It has a decent cast. I mean, Dan Stevens, Kevin Durant, Giancarlo Esposito also in it. The late Angus MacLeod, Catherine Newton. So she was in Lisa Frankenstein. She played Lisa Frankenstein. And it stars Melissa Barrera, who was in the Scream movies. It's nothing wrong with her performance. I don't know if she's miscast. I was talking to somebody about this. I think it was Barbara, and she was like, yeah, I think so too. The movie's not bad at all. I just wouldn't rush out and see it. I love scenes, but once again, every time I loved a scene, there'd be a scene right after it that I saw in another movie. Like they're talking about vampires, and I swear it's like they lifted it right out of From Dusk Till Dawn. The scene where Tom Savini's like, "Ooh, a Time Life book. Does anybody know anything about actual vampires?" There's just so many of those things. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. I did. It's a 6 or 7, and it could have been an 8 or 9. It's basically what it is. It's middle of the road. The performance they get out of this little girl is just fantastic. It's too bad that the rest, and the movie's a lot like Ready or Not, all taking place in a mansion in the middle of nowhere. The way the bodies explode from the vampires is just like Ready or Not at the end of it, if you're familiar with it. It doesn't have Samara Weaving. And a lot of the stuff that I watched, I was like, oh, I've seen this in another movie, kind of slightly better. But Abigail, the lead character, every scene she's in is amazing. So, should you check out Abigail? Absolutely. If you love vampires, you want a good time, this is not a bad movie. I just wanted it to be more. I just wanted it to be more. This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. Anytime you get a chance to go to the movies with Christy Turner, you should totally do that, even though she made me pay. Love you.